Joining me now is Prem Singh Gill, who's a fellow at the Royal Asiatic Society in London and a member of Thailand's People's Party. Prem, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for inviting me here on this term card. Very good morning.
Prem, the fighting between Thailand and Cambodia is now in its second week, with airstrikes deep inside Cambodian territory, dozens killed and hundreds of thousands forced to flee. We've also seen earlier ceasefires collapse pretty quickly this year. From your perspective, what's really standing in the way of de-escalation here? And is there a real risk that this could turn into a longer, drawn-out conflict?
So here's what should terrify everyone. When Trump announced a ceasefire recently, so with less than 12 hours later, the Cambodia BM-21 rockets were hitting Thai civilian areas, seriously injuring 2 people running to a shelter. So we have gone from 4 months to 12 in 12 hours. That acceleration reveals the forces driving this conflict are intensifying, not weakening. So the first obstacle is the criminal infrastructure, but governments protect. So when Thai opposition parties have warned the parliament that Cambodia uses military conflict to divert the attention from the $1 billion online scam operation, who's known for that, Ben Smith. So what happened in July 2025, the Thai police raided properties linked to Ko An, who's known to be a godfather of Pol Pot and one of Hun Sen's closest allies, seizing assets worth 27 million baht and issuing an arrest warrant. What happened is within months, military exchanges intensified dramatically. Cambodia wants the world to focus on Thai airstrikes, not Hun Sen protecting criminal syndicates that trafficked thousands into forced scam labor. But what is interesting is that Thailand's strategy collapses into contradiction, where they say that we are sending F-16 to destroy casino buildings, while the people who ran these networks remain untouched. Benjamin Morgenberg, who's known to be Ben Smith, he's a key figure connected to the major scam network and photographed at events with a former Prime Minister, Anuthin Chanvirakul, who have departed without arrest, Benjamin. So the opposition leaders raised these links, but the government responded with silence without continuing military operations. So as such, the politically connected figures flee unpunished and soldiers die bombing empty targets. The campaign appears aimed at electoral optics rather than the underlying power structures. So looking on to regarding the Thailand and Cambodia MOU, we had MOU 43 and MOU 44. The government shows a clear contradiction. So if scammers are the key factor, the government must explain what caused the clash and how to prevent it recurring. Thailand should not leverage both superpowers as allies, while China wants to suppress great capital harming its citizens. And the US has advanced systems for combating tech crime. Yet I see no sharp positioning from the Thai government beyond military emphasis. So the gap between the military strikes on casino buildings and allowing the connected figures to leave without arrest highlights the government's failure to address the fundamental questions. So what is your real goal? Protecting the Thai sovereignty or protecting Thai elites who profited from scam networks for years? The second obstacles, what I can think of, is the electoral calendar, with elections of 45 to 60 days away from the early February 2026. Well, Anuthin Chanvirakul calls no more talks stance plays well domestically, but eliminates diplomatic options. But what I can say that my central warning is we have military advantage now, but do not lose the diplomatic advantage. Success requires sharpness on military, diplomatic, and scammer suppression fronts simultaneously, not military operations alone. So Thailand's refusal to address what caused this clash means fighting only battlefield while neglecting others. creating a domino effect where you lose everything. So the compression from 4-month to 12-month ceasefires proves it. Tactical dominance without diplomatic strategy produces accelerating cycles where Thailand wins with every battle while losing control out of the outcome.
Prem, let's talk about the Cambodian point of view, right? Cambodia is accusing Thailand of using toxic or poisonous substances during airstrikes, saying some of its soldiers are suffering serious breathing problems. And the Bangkok government, the Thai government, has flatly denied these claims. How seriously should these allegations be taken at this stage? And if they were proven, what kind of international legal consequences could Thailand be facing?
Well, both governments, the largest serve interests, but one fact cuts through propaganda. Thailand used white phosphorus mutations in July 2025, and that decision, regardless of technical legality, represents strategic recklessness, risking the serious international consequences. Cambodia's defense ministry circulated in photographs in November or between November-December 2025, claiming the Thai chemical attacks, right? So, however, Royal Thai Army used the phosphorus during 2025 in July operations. Army spokesperson Colonel Srichan Nathon confirmed this publicly, justifying it as a legal smoke screening and elimination under the 1993 Chemical Weapons Convention. So under that treaty, but both nations signed, white phosphorus is indeed legal for such purposes. Thailand is not lying without treaty language. That's very important. But legal permissions and strategic wisdom differ completely. So the World Health Organization, WHO documentation confirms white phosphorus combustion produces phosphorus pentoxide, fumes causing severe respiratory, eye, skin damage. Hospitals in Cambodia, Manche province, treated approximately 20 Cambodian soldiers in July, August, between that 2025 this year, for respiratory assistance consistent with exposure, documented hospital admission with medical records, but not fabricated propaganda. So even legal weapons become strategic disaster when they generate photographs of soldiers struggling to breathe, being loaded into ambulances. So every such image gives Cambodia value, vastly exceeding whatever tactical advantage the white phosphorus provided. So what I would reckon is that like the Cambodia's propaganda campaign with demonstrably fake photographs undermines the legitimate concerns about Thai weapons employment. So they do manufacture the evidence, and it's so difficult separating genuine grievances from misinformation. But Thailand is hiding behind narrow legal technicalities, while Cambodian soldiers require respiratory treatments represent strategic blindness. So what Thailand should do is Thailand should immediately invite independent investigators, halt all white phosphorus use regardless of legal status, and proactively communicate a commitment to exceeding minimum humanitarian law requirements. Not just because Thailand is guilty, but because preserving technical rights to controversial mutation, sacrificing moral and high diplomatic ground is backward calculation.
Prem, okay, now, Thailand has imposed some restrictions as well. There are curfews, and then some fuel supplies have also been restricted to Cambodia. Do you think that this is giving Thailand an advantage? And, do you think that this could force Cambodia to enter negotiations with Thailand?
Well, that could be yes or no, but Thailand dominates militarily and economically, but it can't convert superiority into political victory. So the members tells the story, 16 Thai deaths versus 221 Cambodian casualties. So as aforementioned, F-16 strikes, so that landed up like 30 kilometers inside Cambodia, complete air superiority, fuel blockades. So Thai exports to Cambodia crashes on 67% year over year. Yet Cambodia won't negotiate. Why? Right? So Chinese or China backstops everything. Every time Thailand tightens the screws, as we say, Hun Sen calls Xi Jinping. This is the Beijing. So Chinese banks extend a credit. Chinese companies reroute the fuel through Vietnam. So that would happen. The Chinese diplomats water down the ASEAN criticism. Then Thailand treats Cambodia like we are the only option. So Hun Sen has a great power patron who committed to countering Western aligned pressure. So Thai economic leverage alone can't force capitulation when Cambodia has a financial backstop that outlaws Thai electoral cycles. So here comes the political clock that runs faster than Cambodia's. After Anutin Chandravirkul dissolved the parliament in December on December 12th, so election hits in the next 60 days, let's say around the early February 2026. So Cambodia's calculation is simple. It's rather simple. So survive until Thai politics shift. What Anutin cannot accept is Cambodian terms without looking weak before elections. So adding the Hat Yai, the flooding system criticism, martial law in border provinces, collapse of tourism, and more than 500,000 of displaced. So Anutin is finally locked in. So Cambodia does not need military victory. They would rather need survival until Thai electoral mathematics changes. So Thailand, what I would say that it forfeits the information war completely. Parliamentary critically were blunt. So the world proportionally in response, Thailand assumes military superiority speaks for itself. So Cambodia wins by default. Even if Thailand executed the perfectly across all dimensions, military, economic, diplomatic, legal, would Hun Sen actually negotiate on acceptable terms in the next 45 to 60 days? That's a very interesting question. So he might want to calculate that international sympathy, plus Chinese support, plus the Thai electoral turnover beats any deal what Anutin has to offer now. If that is his assessment, as a caretaker, he can't do much. Not much of power has been given on his hand, but Thailand advantage is becoming strategically irrelevant. So Thailand needs three major fixes. First, diplomatic surge. Okay, so foreign minister must fight for international opinion. The documents Cambodia violated in July ceasefire first. So to prove the Cambodian military facilities directly scam operations. That invite the ASEAN observers to document rocket attacks on Thai villages. So winning their narrative by actually fighting for it. Secondly, transparent law enforcement. Third, define the political victory. As General Chilumpon, goal is to durably cripple Cambodian military for years. It's not actually the political objective. It is military fantasy disconnected from how it ends. So what exactly or specifically the borders security guarantees does Thailand require? And what level scam network dismantle satisfy demands? And what monitoring mechanism ensure compliance? So without these clear objectives, operation continue indefinitely with no endpoint. Finally, the parliamentary question remains unanswered. Is this about protecting Thai sovereignty from Cambodian border violations, or protecting Thai elites who profited from the scam networks? Until that gets an honest answer, Thailand's crushing advantages remain technically impressive and strategically worthless.
Prem, let's talk about China, Japan, and Taiwan. Obviously, when we look at this region, there's so many issues. There's so many developments that are ongoing as we speak. Now, Japan is repatriating its last giant pandas. China has imposed a seafood ban on Japan. There's so many tensions. China has also been asking its students to return from Japan, not to go to Japan. People who are expected to travel to Japan, the Chinese government is asking them not to do so. Prem, when we look at the statements, the recent statements that have been made by Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping, do you think that they're hardening their stance or there is a chance for diplomacy?
Japan and China crisis is not actually about the disagreement. It is about whether Japan can publicly state red lines on Taiwan about Beijing without Beijing's permission. Takaichi and Xi Jinping are fighting over narrative control, with pandas and seafood bans on as weapons. So what actually is triggering the crisis? Takaichi told the parliament back in November that the Chinese blockade of Taiwan could constitute an existential threat to Japan under the 2015 security legislation. So she chose clarity over ambiguity, whereas the Beijing sees this as Japan abandoning its commitment to recognize Taiwan as part of China. China realization or retaliation has been systematic. Travel advisories, reimposed seafood bans, and after partially lifting them in June, which has postponed culturally exchanges and even panda withdrawals. So the twins at Tokyo's Zoo are going back in January, a month earlier, leaving Japan without pandas for the first time in 53 years. So what China officials have made the connection explicitly. These are consequences for Taiwan to speak up or talk. So here's how Takaichi sees. She simply articulates what Japan is amplified since 2015. Given that the Taiwan's security directly affects Japan's survival. So herself is making it, as a sin, is making it explicit. As she refused to retract, knowing it would devastate her fragile coalition. But more fundamentally, she believes Japan must stop strategic ambiguity while China militarizes the region. Xi Jinping's his calculation runs deeper than punishing on one prime minister of Beijing as establishing precedent. So no Japanese leader can discuss Taiwan contingencies without comprehensive retaliations. The economic coercion demonstrates China's willingness to inflict pain, but there is desperation here too. China's lobbying France, Germany, and the United Kingdom for support. Xi Jinping has also raised this and Trump in November that hopes for the Washington would pressure Tokyo. So what is very interesting is Beijing is testing whether economic coercion can force Japan back into ambiguity while Xi Jinping still has regional momentum. So the risk is that these tactics may backfire. So the panda diplomacy worked when it symbolized friendship. Weaponizing it reveals manipulation. While Japanese public opinion has not actually turned against the Takaichi, despite the crisis. So, well, Trump's silence has an upcoming Beijing visit that worry Tokyo, but they don't change Japan's strategic calculus, where Taiwan's matters too much to pretend otherwise.
Prem, just before I let you go, I have one last question. Now, the U.S. has delivered, has announced, has approved, whatever you want to call it, a $10 billion package of arms, of weapons, which includes missiles, howitzers, drones. There are so many things in that package, and that has angered the Chinese government. Now, when we look at China, Japan, and Taiwan, Prem, Japan is also aligning with Washington at this point. Japan is also siding with Taiwan. Do you think that Japan is deliberately entering a wider geopolitical conflict at this point?
Well, the $11 billion US arms package to Taiwan, given that it's like 60 howitzers, suicide drones, it's not a deterrence theory. It is operational hardware that validates what Japan, Takaichi, said out loud. Taiwan defense and Japan's security are inseparable. As Taiwan it sits like 110 kilometers from Japan's Unaguni Islands. So any Taiwan's conflict immediately hits Japan territory, shipping lanes, the US base on Japanese oil. China actually, they can't take Taiwan without neutralizing those bases. So which means that Japan becomes a target whether Tokyo wants involvement or not. In November, Takaichi's statements didn't really actually create this reality as it acknowledged it. The package escalates the risk through three vectors. Extended range precision strikes force China to consider preemptive attacks for Taiwan's ports, airfields, and command centers before these weapons integrate. So the tactical mission network software creates a real-time battlefield coordination between the US, Japanese, and Taiwanese forces. So what Beijing sees as a de facto alliance formation. And the sheer scale signals Trump prioritizes deterrence and through capability over strategic ambiguity, contradicting Xi Jinping's expectation that trade would matter more than Taiwan. So back in December, in the early December, Chinese J-115 locked fire control radar on Japanese F-15. That has lasted around 5 minutes, I would say. So a Taiwan crisis with Chinese carriers near Japan and US, and that forces mobilizing from Japanese bases of a single pilot error or malfunctioning missile could trigger shooting neither government wants, but both would struggle to stop under nationalist pressure. As Northeast Asia lacks Cold War-style gunrails, no functioning military hotline, and with its authority to de-escalate in real time, and no agreed rules of engagement for contested waters, no back channel, and for discussing Taiwan scenario without public spectacle. So Japan in the middle. Geography prevents neutrality. Security interests, and that prevents allowing the Taiwan's fall. So Trump's transactionalism creates uncertainty about American reliability. Japan being drawn into Taiwan's conflict is more likely than any point since 1972. Still, it is not inevitable, but the hardware just made the margins thinner. So whether the Beijing reads this as a deterrence or provocations determines whether we get managed tension or miscalculated war.
Prem Singh, Gill, thank you so much for joining Turkey's Diplomacy today and for that in-depth analysis on Cambodia, Thailand, and the future of Asia-Pacific and what's going to happen in Japan, in China, and in Taiwan. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you very much. You have a